Hello and welcome to Edukemy's YouTube channel. My name is Harsh Singh and in this video we shall discuss current affairs and guess that for today 29th of March 2022. And before we begin, let me welcome all of you. Thank you for participation here. Hi Amlan, Netra, Kim, Kriti, Bhabani, Ashish, Hima, Pooja, Kanupriya. Welcome to all of you. Let's begin this discussion. And yes, so there were 3 questions and yes, you people answered all of them. So great work done there. Let's begin this discussion. And before we begin, let me quickly share with you a quote that really inspires me and possibly would inspire you as well. You are the greatest project you will ever work on. That belongs to each of us. That quote is applicable to each of us. The greatest project we will ever work on is ourselves. And if humanity is what we follow, should not we be the first project of humanity ourselves? And that is how we replicate the model with others. If civil services is our aim, are we not the first person who we should help and support? Absolutely true. So charity always begins at home, and right now we are doing some work. We are nation in building, we are self in building. So keeping self at the core and then helping everybody else when the time is right. So this is where appreciation to you, because I see daily improvements in you, right? So hi Tiyasha, good evening. Let's begin this discussion. What do we have? The current affairs today has quite a few articles. Microplastic in blood. Yesterday there was a small discussion on that, so let's cover this topic as well. Merchandise export of India, we've covered this a part in previous discussions, but then also in text today. Criminal procedure identification bill, we will understand this bill as well. This day in history dedicated to the Terracotta Warriors from China. Feature news, one rank, one pension for defense forces. We will understand the complete history of OROP, what has been the scheme, what have been the contentions by the ex-servicemen personals, and what is the government stand, what does the Supreme Court say on this. So we will understand the complete agenda or OROP in the feature news immediately after this video. Image of the day on fire at a landfill in Delhi. Terms and concepts, Bucharest Nine, Web 3, Great Barrier Reef, Malabar Rebellion. 3 editorials that we have, one on unemployed youth of the country and explaining the complete horrific situation in India. The second one is on platform cooperatives, and the third one is on CUET, a very holistic perspective on the third editorial. Today's case study is on Barefoot College from Ajmer. Let's start this discussion. Hi Gopal, good evening. All right, the first topic is microplastic in blood. Reports from Netherlands suggest that gold might be far to find, but plastic is not. Microplastics, which are smaller than a specific size, lesser than the size of 5 micrometer, and they have been found. In fact, yesterday itself I was eating Center Fresh, and it was a little, the content of the Center Fresh possibly was intermingled with the plastic itself, and that made me think, while I tore the wrapper, it made me think, am I eating the microplastics? And when this research was carried out in Netherlands, it was found out that out of 22%, what Hima mentioned very rightly, out of 22%, 80% people did contain some or the other kind of microplastics. Some or the other kind. That could be related to food microplastics, food packaging. It could be related to plastic bottles, PET bottles that we speak of. And it was also related to other ways in which plastic could have been ingested by human beings. It is not necessarily through food and through water, by air as well, right? So this is what was found by the report. In fact, have a look at this image. Plastic has been prevalent not only in water space, plastic in oceans and animals getting entangled and caught. Plastic has also been present at the top of the earth. We are talking of the Everest mountains. This is an image from the plastic pollution happening at the Everest and base camp as well, both the places. Imagine this, people go and use them through plastic are used, they get a claim for what they have done, but then this is what are the impacts that are left over. And this must have been a very common sight, right? Cows and other animals, they ingest plastic. There have been reports, there have been actual findings where people found that an elephant excreta would contain plastics ingested and face masks ingested, and they have been found in the excreta of elephants in south of India. Imagine this. And why not will these plastics translate to plastics again in human body? These are microbeads used in many chemical processes, plastics, paints, many entities that we use for in industries like home care industries, right? Simple example is creams that we put on our faces. Another example is the face wash that we use. All of them with scrubs, they contain microplastics, and they all are such small particles that they cannot be found out through naked eyes. Leave naked eyes. If the particles, they are a size of less than the size of a needle, it would be difficult for it to be analyzed. Just the particle itself would be difficult to analyze. Leave apart the micro level beads which are present inside it, right? And when I am speaking of micro level, the beads are not even micro level, they are at the level of nano, right? So this is the situation, right? Plastic smaller than 5 mm in diameter is microplastics, less than 5 mm in diameter. But this is the largest size that we are speaking of. The ones which are being found are far less. In the new study, the size of microplastics were around 700 nanometer. This is far lesser than micro levels in diameter. That is around 140 times smaller than the width of a single human hair. So try plucking one of the hair and seeing what is the width, what is the dimension of that hair. And we are talking of 140 times smaller than that. Imagine this. And these are the particles which one cannot find out through conventional research, right? Even when blood, a sample of blood is taken out, these particles are not to be found in that, right? It could not detect the particles larger than the diameter of needle used to take the sample, right? Now, what is a savior for us is the plastic treaty, right? I think it was in Paris that this negotiation was to happen, and it was happening, and they have declared that by 2024 they will have some or the other legally binding treaty amongst all the countries. India is also a participant. Let us see if the treaty is going to be legally binding, whether it is going to enforce this amongst countries or not. It is said that possibly it will be the second treaty only next to 1980s Convention on Ozone Depletion. Possibly a treaty which might be more effective than the previous ones, right? Now, the particles that have been found in the micro levels in human body, what are these particles? These include two kind of particles, right? So, one of the kind of particles that they are the clothing and plastic bottles, PET bottles and clothing material that we use. See, these are usually made from the chemicals, petrochemicals, right? Coal-based chemicals, and they are further processed. See, the primary, when the crude petroleum is taken out from oceans or other places, wherever it is taken out from, right, with the help of oil rigs, the crude petroleum is refined at multiple levels. The first level of refining will lead to formation of petrol, diesel, and then gas, right? Petroleum gas, LPG, liquefied petroleum gas. This is what leads to, and then there would be some sludge which would be collected, some material which would be left over. This is further processed, and when this is further processed, it could lead to various products like fertilizers, right? Then some more byproducts created here, and they would lead to the formation of plastics. Usually the plastics are kept in the form of beads, right? These pellets, the pellet-shaped beads, and these pellets can be melted to create anything from that particular plastic, right? Its malleability, its ductility, its plasticity, elasticity, all would change with the way it is created. But then the primary particle is the plastic pellets. These are 2 to 5 mm wide particles, and they are later melted at various temperatures. Various different kind of entities are put in to create different plastic products from it, plastic bags, other containers. So plastic pellets are also getting found in human blood. And then microbeads, for example, the personal care, paints, and the personal care products. This is what we are finding in various entities. This is the issue, right? The study said that the microplastics could have entered the body by many routes: air, water, food, each of them, but also in products such as such as toothpaste, lip gloss, tattoo, all of them. Imagine this. And these are something that people are habituated of using. In fact, I was reading a few days back, aluminium foil itself is something that is not very safe to use, contrary to the scientific opinion that aluminium foil could have kept the the food articles safe. Packing and wrapping of not only chapatis but other liquid food was also done in aluminium foils at places. And imagine, aluminium foil is also being questioned for its purpose and work. So this is the situation of the plastic pollution around us. What is the solution? It is very complex, because we are dependent on plastics in many ways. Hi Gopal, good evening. Right, so this is the update here. Microplastics pollution have been detected in human blood for the first time. 80% of the people tested, 22 people, it was found that they contain plastics. So if this is the situation in developed countries, in France and Netherlands and Germany, this is what the research says. Imagine what would be the situation in a country like India, where our phytosanitary measures, where the cleanliness measures, they are not as good as what is in developed countries. We are far more habituated on these products, and they are far more intermingled in our daily routine. All right. So do remember 5 mm size, but then 17 times, 170 times lesser than the size or the diameter of our human hair. That is the kind of particle that we are finding them, right? And not only through food, but through water as well, and through air as well, microplastics are getting into our body. Remember pellets, remember the microbeads. These are two important entities that you should remember in this article. All right. Primary particles, pellets, secondary sources are the microplastics, right? So primary particles are the primary entities, and secondary are the one which were used for some of the jobs, and now they are entering human chain as well. All right. And they are getting transported in the human body through blood. Yeah. So do remember all the kind of articles where they are getting found. All right. Leads to innumerable kind of issues. Cancer is one of them. Inflammation of body. It's not meant to be a part of the body, and if it's there, it will definitely lead to toxicity, right? So marine organisms swallow plastic specks of no nutritional value and don't eat enough food to survive. See, for marine organisms, when they look at small particles, beads, they understand that this is possibly the egg of a fish, and some marine organisms do eat the eggs of the fish, and they would ingest them, right? Give the example of elephant excreting plastics, the plastic polybags and face masks. This is the situation. All right. Ashish says, yes sir, I too read about aluminium foil's danger to human health. Imagine this. Butter papers are better as per the article. Butter paper are better, but then would they be able to sustain the temperature aluminium foil sustains? Yeah. So these are the issues in packaging. PET bottles, yeah, PET bottles. It was said that they are food grade safe. But these PET bottles in the developed countries are being found to contain this kind of issue. Look at this. I'm not endorsing this product, just mentioning that plastic is just ubiquitous. It is present all around us. And in food articles. Thankfully, at my home, I have started to use metal and glass. And now I will recently, I'm in recent future going to shift to matka. All right. Amlan says, which brand do not mix microplastic in toothpaste, sir? Could you please tell me which brands? This is a part of the report that there's some toothpaste in which, plastic content is also being found. The second update is on merchandise export of India, already risen to $400 billion. We've spoken about this, and there has been a consequential rise in the import bill as well. Both of this, right? And the problem, see, the times of the present times could be good for India if India was an exporting nation, but largely we are an importing nation. So when the advantage is happening in case of export only, that's not true. because we are largely an importing nation and our imports are getting costlier. Even when the rupee is getting depreciated, right, it gives us an advantage in exporting, that's true, but then the importing entity also gets costlier, and this is where we are facing the trouble. That is why I asked you the other side of this story. What are the reasons for this betterment in exports in India? So quite a few number of schemes we have had in India. For example, cheaper credit to exporters, right, interest subvention schemes, agricultural export policy, agriculture linking it with exports. We are classifying districts as export hubs. These are the many multiple reasons because of which we see increase in export happening in the last quite a few years. It has been happening. Just because of Corona, there was a shortfall, but then we have recovered and done far better. PLI schemes, production link incentive schemes to export more, right? For example, products like textile, automobile, auto components, drugs, mobile phones, all of these entities, right? Some of the gadgets, devices, raw material for electronics that we export, they will become cheaper now. And we are also exporting more of this, right? So this is the update here. We have spoken quite a bit about export and import. So what else do I want to share here? That's it. All right. So when you look at the image here, the rising trends of export, don't look at the percentage, 40% rise, 30% rise. It is only because the base effect of the base effect. The last year and last year, because of the Corona pandemic, the export wasn't as high. Now this chart indicates of the dark blue color indicates of the imports and the lighter one indicates of the exports. When we see exports, this is the graph that I am drawing connecting the upper points. And when we look at the imports, look at the import rise from the last year. Import rise has been substantial. Last year it was less than $400 billion. Now almost going to touch $600 billion. So humongous. It will hurt India's exchange rate. It will hurt India's potential to preserve the dollars, right? So this is what is the update here. Don't look at the percentages, 40% and 20%. This will change in a few months, right? So important is for us to understand how we are exporting, and Prime Minister thanked who all? Farmers. Prime Minister thanked MSMEs. Prime Minister thanked these kind of schemes which have been run by the ministries which have helped in exporting more. All right. So making India a manufacturing hub, that has been the agenda. Now, when we discuss the editorial link to China, remember Chinese editorial and Chinese manufacturing still touching 30% of world's manufacturing. We should start learning from what China is doing to manufacture in India. So you could link both these articles. Okay. The third update is on Criminal Procedure Identification Bill 2022. Okay. Imagine a crime scene and a person lying here and possibly dead, and forensic teams comes to investigate and to take the samples, right? So a sample of this person's DNA would be taken. If there are fingerprints on the sofa, that would be taken. If there is a hair drop or lying on the ground, that would be taken, and they would be also spotted these places. If there's blood spatter, if the blood has spilled, that spatter analysis also would be done. If the blood has spattered at this place, it would be done. This is all done by forensics. Forensics is the science of dealing with the criminal investigation with the help of science and trying to legally help in the administration of justice. That is forensics. Now, when this is done, there has to be a database with the help of which we should be able to match what is happening at the crime scene. So there are people who are suspects. Suspects ka match to karwana hoga, right? So even if it is not legally mandated, then the police, illegally tries to, or in some way or the other, they try to look at the suspects, various biological parameters, measurements, under quotes, measurements, for example, shoe size, iris scan, right? Their biometric data, anything, fingerprints, all of them would be taken. And but what about those people who are not suspects? What about relatives of this person who is no more? What about people who potentially could have been suspects but are not a part of the first information report? Now this is where this particular act, right, the act that we are speaking of of right now, the bill which has been introduced, it is going to create a database of all the persons who are related to the particular case, who could be unrelated in some way, but the district administration has authorized that this specific individual's biometric data or measurements, they need to be taken. Now this is what the forensic team will do. They will take the database of all such persons, put it under CC TNS crime and criminal tracking network system, and they will use this data to match with anything that has been found at the crime site. Right? We have found out the details at crime site, nobody questioned this, but when we start taking personal data of the people, this is where the question will come. No, so this is where we'll start looking at the possibilities of pros and cons, the issues and the advantages involved. The first advantage of taking the database is we will have a database with which we will be able to draw a check, right, of the person who were possibly involved in the criminal act. So solving a crime would be easier. Absolutely true. Solving would be easier, right? So this is the prime advantage of this. But then there are countries which are building a complete database out of it. For example, the FBI in USA has built a database of 4 crore such people who were found into some kind of issues like this, right? Now India currently has got fragmented data protection and fragmented data banks. Each state has got certain data bank of these kind of people who are involved in these kind of issues and possibly Farar, right, those people, and this is only in few lakhs. Plus the software that we use to match the biometrics, for example, the iris, the fingerprints, the footprints, the height, the shoe size, all of these, the software that we use to match, that is also quite a laggard, right? So and there was also an appeal by certain officers in the police, in the government, that Aadhaar data should be available for them to match any problems in the crime scene. It was completely kept aside, this kind of suggestion, and it was said that this data will not be available, right? So this is quite a demand. NCRB director in 2018 said that the investigation agency should allow the access the fingerprint data of Aadhaar to identify criminals, right? But then the prime usage of Aadhaar data was not to identify criminals, it was to deliver services to people, right? So in these circumstances and many other circumstances, the data has never been shared, right? So while the FBI has over 4 crore fingerprints in its database, the central database that we have in India has just 10 lakh fingerprints. We have not even integrated the various states database and national database. We have not even integrated that right now. The software used to match is also outdated, right? The Home Ministry is working on to take 30 lakh fingerprints by connecting the data stored with state fingerprint bureaus. The plan is to eventually store all data from crime scene investigations across the country. Annually, close to 50 lakh cases are registered. Imagine this, right? So this is, see, the prime contention here is that the data to be stored here will not only be for the person who has been accused. This will be for any person who is related to the crime, even possibly not a person who is close to being accused, right? For example, if X person got murdered, their parents' data also might be taken. But yes, after the case is closed, the data will be deleted from the end of the government. This is also an assurance from the government, right? So getting back, so this is the bill, Criminal Procedure Identification Bill, right? Okay, so let us quickly discuss what are the other features. Identification and investigation of criminal matters, and the advanced countries like US and France, they rely on new measurement processes and techniques, right? So the database used for these kind of techniques and is wide, and the kind of softwares that they use is also far advanced. For example, facial recognition softwares, right? The biometric data capture softwares, iris scan, they are far advanced than what India uses. So the major features of this bill would be measurements ranging from, as I mentioned, fingerprints, footprints, eye scan, biometric data like DNA, all that analysis would be taken by for every person. Palm print, fingerprint, all of them would be taken. Photographs, right? And also facial recognition, right? Role of National Crime Records Bureau, right? So they will collect, store and preserve this data till the time that particular case has to be administered and solved. Magistrate, right? Who magistrate? Judicial magistrate, district magistrate. So the investigative agencies are the ones which will be empowering the people to collect this data from all the people related to that particular crime, right? So magistrate direct any person to give measurements. Any person, you have to give measurement. You have to give measurement. Yes, all of you. उनके सब परिवार का measurement ले लो. So this is the role they'll be empowered under this particular act. Role of police, right? So they are the ones who will be actually taking the measurements. Preventive detention, people under preventive detention, their measurement also will be taken. The record will be stored, and then when not required, it will also be deleted, right? The record of these measurements will be retained in digital and electronic form for a period of 75 years from the date of collection. They will also be destructed. In case the person has not been convicted for an offense previously, right? Federal balance. Refuse to comply. People will refuse to comply at times. Yes, absolutely. So major issues, fundamental rights are getting violated. Why are you taking my fingerprints? Right to be forgotten. People, this is what European countries they start with. Yesterday only we studied on the rights, right? So Digital Markets Act. Similarly, right to be forgotten, all initiated in European countries. If I have been convicted for an offense, why should my data be still stored in the government NCRB and criminal tracking network system? It should not be. There's a possibility of misuse, absolutely. Possibility of misuse in further cases, mapping of individual, rights of prisoners, right? How can the prisoners themselves be used for self-incrimination? For example, by giving prisoners some injection, some dosage, right? They have to, right, under the application of some drugs, possibly then, they could reveal some truth. Now, these are the cases where this is called as self-incrimination. How can a person be incriminated for doing something by giving, by giving proof against themselves, right? So these are the issues here. Custodial violence also happens to forcefully take in the data from that particular person. Data privacy, fear of political prosecution, political vendetta, all of them are linked to this particular issue. So that is why in news. Right to forget. Thank you for mentioning. Okay, what are the things here? Pooja says use clay-made tools in case of using plastic-made. Milton bottle. All right. Somebody says Ramdev Baba. Okay. Dant Kanti. Yeah, Datun, the natural herb. Yeah, neem. That's quite good. Everybody is enrolled into using these products. Okay. Cow dung toothpaste. Great. Okay. Okay. Moving ahead to the third update. Terracotta Warriors. I was fortunate enough to witness this in person, the Terracotta Warriors, 6 of them. Now, this is from China, the first Chinese emperor. When he passed away, there was a complete terracotta army which was sent with him, possibly into the next, after life place where he would go, along with a complete set of army. 8,000 soldiers, 130 chariots, 520 horses, 150 cavalry horses. All of them were buried, not live. These are not live. These are terracotta. So what you're speaking of, clay. These were made of clay, but they were not miniature in size, 6 feet in size. The general would be the tallest, 2 meters tall, and then the other soldiers would be smaller in size. This was explored. This was found out in 1973, today itself, 29th of March 1973, right? This was found right then, and then world museums across, few of these terracotta figures would be sent. So 6 of them were sent to Chicago, and I had gone there and I accidentally got to know that, all right, these things also existed. So it's not just that Indian Indian mythology believes in an afterlife. This is Chinese mythology also believing in such. So terracotta army with 8,000 soldiers all buried underground. I'm speaking of 2 to 3 BC, 2 to 3 century BC, right? Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. This is during those times. So very interesting image of the day for today, right? 29th of March 1974 in Xi'an, China. All right. Ancient tomb of this emperor. Feature news: one rank, one pension for defense forces. We will understand in totality what this OROP means, what has been the history of it, what has been the present situation, what has Supreme Court said, government and the ex-personal stand, what is the need for OROP, what is the kind of justification being provided by each of the sides. All right, so beautiful coverage of this article in the feature news. Image of the day: a fire at Ghazipur landfill, a landfill site around Delhi. There are multiple landfill sites. If viewed from far, it would seem as if it is a mountain in a plain area, but then actually these are the sites of landfill. See, this is the part of the renewed plan of Clean India mission, right? So when we speak of what is the campaign? Name of campaign started on 2nd of October 2014. Can you please name that campaign? The second part of that campaign wants to clean these kind of huge mountains and piles of the collected solid waste, and it has provided various resources, technology resources through which the landfill should become zero. Even the past landfill should be made to come at zero, and all these particles, all these huge entities, they would be converted into usable waste. For example, fertilizers, if they can be recycled, they would be recycled. Plastic, if they can, plastic, glass, paper, all of them. And if these entities can are worth incineration, they will be incinerated as well, right? So, and if they could be created into biopellets, they would be done that also. So this is where the second part of the scheme, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Thank you very much, Ashish, Bhavani, Kriti, Tyasha, Hima, Amlan. Absolutely great. So this is where the second part of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan aims at. So people are wondering, why not funds of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan getting provided for other schemes, right? So this is where the government has enforced its second part of Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, right? Waste treatment, sewage treatment, the huge piles of garbage treatment. And you see, when a fire happens at a place like this, imagine, it is not only about the slum dwellers who live here, it is about the air quality which completely gets deteriorated. It also leads to toxicity on the ground. Toxicity on the ground, not only air, toxicity on the ground, right? What about the water? Earlier, if the particle was just kept, that's still fine, but if you burn that waste particle, it will also mix with water. So imagine the kind of issues, and these kind of fires, they are regular at these sites. Terms for today: Bucharest Nine. The 9 countries which were erstwhile either a part of Soviet Union or closely allied with Soviet Union or a part of Warsaw Pact. Now these countries have become a part of NATO. Right, we are talking of Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. These are the popular countries. See, Poland being a big country here, Romania being another one, and then we also have these 3 small babies: Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. Right, Russia really unhappy with these 3 countries. All of them became part of NATO. So when Mr. Putin keeps saying that these 9 countries, they were taken into NATO because it was eastward expansion of NATO. All these 9 countries, they came in and they said that it's not NATO which came eastward, it is us who moved westward. It is not NATO, it is our doing. And Bucharest 9, Bucharest is the capital of which country? Anybody, very quickly, which country? There is a Budapest and there is a Bucharest, both of them, right? So 2015, this association of 9 countries was formed. 2015, right? 2014, they met in Bucharest, the capital of what place? Mentioned. And then this is what was formed. 2014 and 15. Why significant? Because this was the time when the Crimean Peninsula was taken over by Russia. All right, B9. All right. So what else about this? Quick remark about these places. Yes. So these are the premiers of these countries. Okay. And Romania, Poland, Hungary and Bulgaria are the former signatories of Warsaw Pact. 4 of these are former signatories of Warsaw Pact, so closely allied with USSR in the past times. Right? The other Warsaw Pact countries were Czechoslovakia, East Germany and Albania. So East Germany got dissolved, Albania and Czech Republic, and Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, they were formerly a part of USSR. All right, so this is the update here. Moving ahead to Web 3, have we studied these? Yes, we have studied this previously. What is Web 3? This is an updated version of Web, World Wide Web, right? www. If you were scrolling www 20 years from now, all you would see would be a platform in which you would gain some information, right? Gain some information. There would be lesser, there will be no interaction at all, right? It would be just like surfing a computer, Windows 95, lesser interactive systems, no voice recognition, right? Lesser places to click on, lesser places to look at feedbacks. This was the primitive times of initiation of web. That would be Web 1.0. The Web 2.0 are the one that we are currently using. See, Web 1.0 are current websites as well. If you go to government website, it would be only one directional, the government displaying information. But when you see Web 2.0, it is more interactive. What is it about? You can put a comment, you can like that initiative, you can share that initiative, right? You can also possibly dislike that initiative. Not only that, there would be more level of interaction, personalized interaction. For example, ads would be placed at corners, right? So cache data would be utilized, and this is how Web 2.0 becomes more interactive. There's a third level of Web 3.0 that has been the order of the day, possibly the order of future, and this would be further decentralized, right? Every person will see the internet according to their own eye, and it will be different for everybody using a phone. It will be different for every screen, right? On the basis of what I need, what I want, very much personalized and decentralized as well, possibly with the help of the blockchain technology. All right. So there have been questions posed: can we have centralized servers or do we need it decentralized? This is where the question of Web 3.0 also plays an important role. Right, more interactive. It will become more interactive with every user. This is Web 3.0. The demand for Web 3.0 talent has surged as internet moves to next stage. Right. So I don't know if you people have had profiles on Orkut. I did have profile on Orkut, and it was almost one directional. But when we look at Facebook, it is bi-directional. I also interact with the system, and in the third level, the interaction will be further augmented. All right. Experts have raised concern about decentralized web, citing the potential for low moderation and proliferation of harmful content, centralization of wealth and to a small group of investors and individual, or loss to privacy, or expansive data collection. See, so these are the issues with this. Web 3.0 is believed to provide increased data security, scalability. Oh, so many scalabilities, privacy for users. Okay, let's see how privacy, because somebody else says it is loss to privacy. It is actually loss to privacy when the data becomes more interactive with us. It is only because somebody has taken my data to make it more, personalized for myself, right? Oh, you guys have had profiles on Orkut. Yeah, writing testimonials. Yeah, what I would do was I'd copy the testimonial written by somebody else to somebody else in an open profile and share it with the, friend. Scrapbook, yes, 10,000 scraps, 15,000 scraps, comments. Romania, thank you very much. Yes, Romania is the country. Hima says they also have found terracotta musicians, acrobats. Oh, different kind of birds, not just warriors. See, whenever an emperor would die, whenever people would die, see, it happens in Indian culture as of now as well. Many people who pass away, is it not that along with them, while the festivities or the occasions are getting conducted for their the peace of the soul, then is it not that there are times when cow is also donated, there is a cot which is given, clothing are given, utensils are given, food is given, all these articles so that the person could have a better afterlife. And this is why these kind of entities would be gifted to other people also abroad, right? So Chinese culture, very similar to the Indian culture. All of them, both of these culture come in the similar Eastern culture, right? Occidental and Oriental. This is Oriental culture, and Occidental culture is the Western culture. So Indian and Chinese philosophy in the Oriental philosophy, and Western culture in the Occidental philosophy. Great Barrier Reef. The prime difference between Occidental and Oriental culture is this, that the Western culture, which is also called as Occidental, they look at the questions why, who, where, when, right? They are very inquisitive in nature. That is why scientific temperament is at a different level. So if a person catches a or if a person is hurt because of a glass piece hurting their feet, the Western philosophy ideally, not just generalizing it, they would ideally ask, oh yeah, how did you catch this? What was the issue? Where were you walking? What is the size of this glass piece? That is the kind of question Western philosophy would ask. But Eastern philosophy would ask, for example, Buddha would ask, oh, let me try to heal your pain, right? So similarly, Lao Tzu would say, oh, how much is the pain? Let me try to give you some dosage. So the Eastern philosophy usually works towards solution. The Western philosophy towards questioning, right? Being curious. Great Barrier Reef. Great Barrier Reef in question because studies have pointed that this place is going through a mass level of bleaching, coral bleaching, right? So in this image is the Great Barrier Reef. You can see very well. This is on the northeastern side of Australia, right? One of the largest structures visible from space as well, larger than the size of Chinese Great Wall, the Great Wall of China, and one of the important natural heritage monuments declared by UNESCO, and going through a mass level of coral bleaching. On the top, you see an image where the corals are enriched. These are sea creatures, fishes, and other creatures which are roaming around the coral reefs. And this is the bleached coral. I've seen them. I had shared this with you people. I'd seen them live after scuba diving in Andamans, in Havelock Islands, and I could see both of them. This is present at the regular interfaces, but then when I was viewing from the Jolly Boy Island, I'd spoken about the preservation of Jolly Boy Island. There are two islands, the Red Viper and the Jolly Boy. 6 months of opening of Jolly Boy and 6 months of opening of the Red Islands. And this is where when I went to Jolly Boy, and it was just 6 feet below me, and it was not diving, it was snorkeling. And just 6 feet below, we could see the enriched, very much biodiverse corals. Now corals are only the covers, polyps are the creatures, and these polyps give the corals their whole life. The shells are the ones where the polyps live. And once the temperature exceeds, once the salinity is different, once there is pollution, because of all this, the polyps, they leave the spaces, the corals, and once they leave, the whole coral turns white because of the diverse life form. They would not seek to exist there. And there's a complete ecosystem. One good ecosystem is the presence of tiger fishes with the corals, right? So fishes would protect the corals and corals would provide food to them, right? This is the ecosystem, and it's a very beautiful ecosystem. I wish I could show this to you. Just a bit. Tiger fish. I could see multiple of these ecosystems right in front of my eyes. And this is what is called as symbiosis. Oh. Video to be played after ads. Not ready. Can you hear? Can you hear what is being said here? Just so many ads. YouTube monetizing. See, these are the tiger fishes. and they keep moving. This is an artificial creation, but then in a natural setup also, they would move very close to the corals, because corals would provide food to them. Right now, there's an artificial setup where the coral polyps would, these are the food. See the way they are eating food. So these are the fishes. That image is not here of symbiosis, but then if you could find, it would be great. All right, getting back. So Great Barrier Reef in threat because of mass level of extinction of the reef organisms. Now, this is where the tussle between China and Russia and Australia also has a very significant role to play. See, Australia imports, these countries between China and Australia, they also have coal transactions. China is also heading UNESCO, right? So China says, it started with Australia saying we want to conduct an investigation in China. What was the origin for WHO for the virus? And China was not happy with this kind of accusation. Why do you want to conduct these investigations in Wuhan? China, on the other hand, said UNESCO, because China was heading UNESCO that time. China is heading many of the United Nations bodies, and either as the president or the vice, right? So China, on the other hand, said that this place is being threatened and you must protect this place. On the other hand, Australia says that we are going to protect it, but we are not going to create it as a no human zone, because this is also an important source of livelihood for Australia. So you can see the multiple level of tussles between Australia and China, and then Australia also becoming a part of Quad, AUKUS, right? And then China and Australia, obstruction of coal import also happened. So many issues between these countries. Moving ahead to Malabar Rebellion. It is in today's newspaper. It says that the Indian Council of Historical Research has deferred its decision on recommendation of removal of Malabar Rebellion martyrs as freedom fighters. See, this is an indication for you to get into the Malabar Rebellion that happened in the year 1922, right? Now, they were people in the Malabar region, right? And they rebelled against the Zamindar community. The Zamindar community was largely the Hindu community, right? So these people rebelled against the tyranny of the oppression of the Zamindar community. So in a way, they tried to free themselves of the oppression of the Britishers, because the Zamindar community would also be related to the Britishers, right? They would share the revenues that they would get, right? So it was considered as one of the movements in which people were trying to free themselves of the British oppression. But it was found in some researches that the number of Britishers who were killed in this kind of rebellion, it was only very few, a couple of them, and most of the people who died was the Zamindar community, which was largely Hindu. So therefore, this was a communal event. This was not a freedom movement. So remove the name of the martyrs of Malabar Rebel from the name of martyrs. So this is what was requested, and this is where the Indian Council of Historical Research says we will not be doing this, right? We will not be doing this right now. Deferred the decision on recommendation to remove Malabar Rebellion martyrs from the list of freedom fighters. All right. This is the update. So this is a hint for you to get back to all the movements that happened during 1920s and 30s, tribal movements for independence and freedom, right? So movements in Bihar, Gujarat, south of India went on for several months, marked by bloodshed, 10,000 lives lost, including 2,400 rebellions. All right. Moving to the editorials. Hi Sachin, good evening. Okay. On Great Barrier Reef, I see there are many places which I feel the questions have been asked previously, because I have had a look at wider range of questions that have been asked. So the articles that we cover, when I look at the context of how I interpret it, on how I speak about it, possibly it has been asked somewhere or the other. Pooja says, sir, Eastern are more ancient. Yes, they're said to be more ancient, but then we have had Western cultures also. No, the Greek have had very, very old cultures, 700 BC. But yes, largely the eastern ones also very old. Okay. Ashish saying no for what? I don't know. Yes, man. Common University Entrance Test, CUET. We have discussed the details of CUET, right? So UGC recommending Common University Entrance Test for 45 central universities, and then others to follow. This will be mandatory and a common test for all the people, all students who are getting into college life, right? Especially the general graduation fields. Technical graduation will be under JEE entrances or NEET entrances. Now this is where the editorial says two things. One, positives, and the second one, the issues about this. And this is a very beautiful editorial about it. Very beautiful editorial. So it speaks that there are certain advantages of placing a CUET, Common University Entrance Test. First advantage is conducting one same examination. The cutoff will not be skyrocketing in this case because we will be conducting an examination. This will not be based on 12th marks. This will be far more rational test because the schemes of examination, 12th examinations are very different. CBSE, ICSE, regional boards are different. Their syllabi is very different. So conducting a smaller, a wider level of examination will be good. This is what the editorial says. It will be objective. It will be value neutral. See, start noting these because when you look at CUET, if a question comes around, an integrated test, these are the kind of plus points: objective, value neutral, right? A standard examination for diverse board or entrances. Students will not be writing multiple entrance tests, and the cutoff will not be as inflated, 99.99%. This will not be the case. These are the advantages. But let's look at the issues. This is where the editorial also points out the issue are many. For one small example of the issue is the fact that can we summarize the life of Gandhi through MCQs? MCQ around when was the Quit India movement initiated, or what was the birth year of Mahatma Gandhi? These are the kind of questions. These are the simplistic questions, but they would be complex questions, but based on MCQs only, right? Can we tell the philosophy of Swami Vivekananda in one optional, right? One option? No, that's not true. Similarly, but then the questions are getting asked on these people with the help of MCQs only, right? Treating a subjective field, a field of diverse interpretation, also called as hermeneutics. There is a separate field of study called as hermeneutics, which speaks about interpretation of the same word or same phrase. For example, it is said in Hindi, उसका घर पानी के बीच में था, एकदम पानी में था, right? It doesn't mean the house was in between the water. It was not so. It was just aside the water. It is one interpretation of it, right? So there's a complete science of it, right? Of this field. But then the MCQ level questioning reduces that complete science to engineering. How to mark the correct answer. This is what, and this is where the field of coaching institute also that plays an important role. That usually the editorial speaks of as strategic learning, so that you are able to clear the examination. That's it. But is that learning? That is not learning. That is the one where the person is able to clear the examination, but the actual creativity, the immense level of engagement, that does not happen. It is revolving around rote learning. So very, very beautifully I captured this in 3 phrases. Have a look at this. The 3 phrases here that I had written was, yes, right here. Mathematical objectivity to judge one's mental aptitude, right? Only mathematical aptitude will be required to judge if the person knows even an arts question or not, right? Mathematical objectivity, right? So this would make the examination book-centric. Examination will become book-centric. Education will become exam-centric. The teaching of things and the art of learning will become only exam-centric. If I have qualified, I am a winner. And learning will be rote-centric, right? Because all we have to do is clear the examination with the help of rote learning. This is where I remember the example of Einstein. It was Einstein, no? His mother, right, taught him, couldn't go to school because the school refused him, and then grew up to be one of the best, iconic marvels, prodigy in himself, right? And so is the case with many other people. They treat college and school education as something which is very much mainstream, and anyhow, we shouldn't be diverting. See, the core field of education, this also deals with the subjective analysis, not just objective analysis, mathematics, because every art question also would turn into a mathematical objective question. This is not the requirement. What requires is a person opening their mind, creative exploration, interpretation based learning, right, and reflection. See, this is where I appreciate very much the UPSC main examination. It gives you immense scope. What we get is complete blank sheet of paper, a blank sheet of paper. It is for us to fill it with a drawing, with answers, right? Leave it untouched. It is totally up to us. It is such subjective, and we scored the best. There's a lot of potential in an examination like UPSC, right? And that is why essay papers, ethics papers, they are also initiated, right? In which there is no correct, at times there is no correct and wrong answer. It is merely dependent on the possibility, right? So a great interpretation of how NEET exam, how this particular examination, CUET, is only limited, just like NEET examination, just like JEE examination, and how real learning is far beyond a test, right? So what is required is to provide autonomy to academic institutions so that at least they're able to teach in a way in which the student can, expand themselves. This is one. Recruit spirited teachers, right? One of whom you find right in front of you right now. And have some pedagogy, some field of study which are life reinforcing. For example, if from today's conversation you take something for your life which is far beyond the UPSC examination, right? This is what is called as life reinforcing pedagogy. Some learning which went along with you for the whole life, right? And imagine if there was a system in which each of you watching this video, each of you could be determined into what you are best at, because there has to be some few things which you are really good at, or you are yourself, destined to become optimal and best at. Not all of you are best at administration. Some of you are best at self-administration. Some of you are very good at creativity. Some of you can handle bigger crowds. Some of you are very good in innovation, right? Some of you have great eloquence, leadership skills. Some of you are great in mathematics. Imagine if each of this could be specifically differentiated, not through an MCQ examination which is the same for all, but through lifelong learning. That is what real education is about. And examination is only limited, right? Okay. So this is the first editorial, a beautiful one, touched my heart. The second one is on unlocking the potential of platform cooperatives. Dekho dosto, one thing to be noted. When we speak about platform economy, a platform being created online and then using that platform to connect the end users and the producers. Simple example, Uber, right? So aggregator, platform economy, aggregator, cab aggregator, they don't own cabs, but then people, they are based on the platform, and there are people who are utilizing these services, right? Another example, Zomato, Swiggy, each of them, right? There are many other platforms getting created. Tata is creating an online platform for every service you want. China has multiple platforms. One of the platforms is called as, what is that app that they had? China had an app, right? A very, very, very much growing app. Meet or something. I'm forgetting the name. So similarly, there are many multiple platforms which are getting created. Similarly, cooperatives can also get installed in such platforms. Cooperative societies. These cooperative societies can turn into digital mode to be able to help each of the farmers. This is where the editorial says it is based on these 7 principles. Platform cooperatives are rooted in 7 doctrines, 7 principles. Voluntary and open membership. Democratic member control, right? Membership will be open to everybody. Democratic control. Second, member economic participation. People have to participate through, finances. Autonomy and independence. Education, training, information, cooperation, and concern for the community, right? So this is, if one can have FPOs, farm producer organizations, one can have also online farm producer organizations, where a group of farmers, if there are 100 farmers, they can be rerouted, some into marketing of the product, some into providing inputs for the product, some into the fields, some into standardization of the produce or standard control. Imagine if this is done, this is a greater level of operation. This is farm producer organizations. We've covered this in a featured news altogether. But when we switch this to online mode, right, where farmers can get the real price of the items in the online market, right? The discovery of the prices in online market. For example, give me examples of the presence of online marketing federations. Give me some examples here, right? If this is done, then this is way to go for giving benefits to the farmers directly. Communal ownership model. This is one. Fostering solidarity, reframing efficiency and innovation. And all this being rewarded to a group of farmers than a few capitalists. This is what is the requirement, and this is what is being done through digital models. Unlocking the potential of platform cooperatives. See, platform cooperatives. Start using these phrases. Beautiful phrase. Employed, unemployed youth, and an unemployed country, right? So the country says that though the GDP of the country is only increasing with time, there is increased unemployment in the country, and it speaks about multiple levels of insecurities which cause this kind of unemployment, right from lesser availability of jobs, right, to government jobs which are further short in availability. The editorial says, have a look. In the number of railway posts, 35,000 posts which were advertised, there were 1.25 crore applications. For 35,000 posts, it is not 1.25 lakh or 12 lakh people applying. It is 1.25 crore people, and a vast majority who were postgraduate in degree applying for this, right? Please do not be fearful about these data, my dear friends. You people are a different league. Each of you are unique and individual. Not that people applying for these posts are bad or good, but just that we are following what is the trend. But then if you and I can explore something unique for yourself, there would be no stopping for you, right? So you will be dedicated to the cause, even if you are in any other service, anything else, right? But just then the cause is more important, right? So I remember my mentor had shared with me role and goal. So they said, what is your goal? I said, I want to become an IAS officer. This was a decade back. So he said, no. Don't tell me about your role. Don't tell me about the role that you want to pick. Tell me the goal that you have. So I said, I want to do something in the field of fitness, something in the field of education. So he said, okay, this is your goal then. And what is the role you want to pick up? I said, sir, I want to join the civil services. So then he said, okay, now you've achieved the clarity. See, the role that you can adopt, that might change. Batman, if you're inspired by that character, he would become a goon. He would become the hero of the same city, Gotham, right? Depending on the time and necessity of the time. But then the goal would not change. Goal would be to restore Gotham to its glory, right? Similarly, you got to see what is your goal and what is your role, and never feel de-inspired, because your goal can always be achieved. The roles might change, right? So the editorial says that for 35,000 posts, 1.25 crore people had asked for employment. One of my friend who is in SSC, he cleared the examination in the year 2018. Yes, 16 or 18. And 8,000 people had applied, 8,000 posts were there, and 35 lakh students had applied for this examination. Imagine this, right? For UPSC, it is 1,000 posts, and number of students who are appearing in the examination is 5 lakh plus, and number of people applying is 10 lakh plus, and this is only due to getting increased in the coming times, right? So this is the situation in our country. People looking for government job, uncertainty in private jobs, the hire and fire policy in private jobs, long working hours, poor pay, all these are the issues because of which people look for a government job and they wait for a dream job. And this is the reason, this is one of the reasons that the country faces a lot of unemployment. The private sector is not reliable and the government does not provide enough jobs in the country. For fulfillment of dignified employment, the youth needs to be guaranteed access to education, health and livelihood. Just relating what we are doing here, providing some education, some help, some support, right? for opening of any avenues that you have. So this is where we are all open to you, right? Let us know whatever you're facing, whatever the issues are, just type down and we'll reach back to you. All right. So before we move to the last section, that is today's case study, if you like this initiative, share some love through likes, comments and shares. Okay. YouTube advertisement was not audible. Okay, thank you. Mayan civilization, which is geographically western but more like eastern. Mayan civilization, it's very primitive, it's very old. Could you tell me the era which Mayan civilization was a part of? I think it was a part of 1000 century BC, around that. Mayan. WeChat, yes, all of these, Alibaba, Baidu, WeChat, these are all super apps getting created. Tata is also creating one, Reliance is creating one, right? So these are those super apps which will contain all the solution to all the problems that you have. Meesho, Alibaba, Myntra, yes, all of them. Amazon, yeah. Okay, my dear friends, understood the difference between role and goal. So start choosing your role and your goal remains fixed. Absolutely. And getting back to the case study, which is on role and goal again, this gentleman that we are seeing is Sanjeet Roy, right? He is working in Ajmer right now, and he initiated something called as Barefoot College. Barefoot College, right? Barefoot College, yes. This is where he would have female workers who would come and learn some skills. So lately he's been imparting in that particular college skills for repairing of solar devices, solar gadgets, and people are, especially women, are learning here, getting skills, getting trained, and this is how they are able to get jobs, right? And he started this by himself digging a well, himself dug wells as an unskilled laborer to test his commitment before getting into social services. So a person who has worked in the fields and then initiated this whole scheme, Barefoot College in Ajmer, and initiating work employment for women in those areas. He worked on reversing the migration trend by providing dignified opportunity of work to people, right? Training illiterate women to become solar engineers. देखो दी आपको, leaving the whole story aside, Barefoot School, how will you use this case study? Barefoot School present in Ajmer. See, when you write a case study or summarize a case study, you have to write only 4 points. Barefoot School, Ajmer, right? So training, this phrase, training illiterate women to become solar engineers. This is the first point. The second point would be gainful employment in rural areas. And the third, reverse migration trends. That's it. This is a case. And this is where will you draw a case like this? Where we are speaking of employment, where we are speaking of opportunities through, some ethical, case studies. This could be the one. Or reversing the trend of migration. You could use these case studies right there, right? Jai Prakash Narayan was his inspiration, right? So let's move to the other video for today. That is the feature news on one rank, one pension. If you like this initiative, share some love through likes, comments and shares. All right. Hima says 2000 BC to 250 AD. All right. So when these Incas, Mayas, and you spoke of Mayas. Yeah, when they existed that long time back. And this was also the times when the Egyptian rulers were existent, when we had Indus Valley civilization, right? So I wonder if we have text created and found of those places. The history is divided into various fragments. So there is history, which has been history, and then there is prehistory, and there is proto-history. See? So history is what has been written, documented. Proto-history is the initial part of the history that was not deciphered, not documented, however found in some or the other ways. How we could understand something through pictographic explanations. Something that were remnants that were found. Proto, initial. And prehistoric, about which we don't know much at all. In fact, hardly. Whatever is available are the remnants of those times. So for these civilizations which existed 3000 BC, 2000 BC, we did not have any availability of written text. And for that same reason, how can we differentiate between what kind of philosophy this is, Eastern or Western? The question here is about, see, this kind of distinction is only since around 1000 BC, where the Greek philosophers came into being, and after that the Eastern philosophers came into being, right? Buddha and then Lao Tzu in the Eastern part, and then Greek philosophers and the Roman empires in the post 1000 BC, right? So Occidental and the Western, Oriental, this distinction is largely 1000 BC onwards. That's what I want to say. This is what I am aware of. All right, so let's move quickly to the second part of the video, that is on the one rank, one pension scheme. All right, thank you. Okay, Hima says it's a pre-classic era. Okay.